Hey there guys, welcome back to What Cheers. I'm Nick as always. Tonight we're going to take a look at the one and only Avery Pumpkin, which is their Bourbon Barrel-Aged Imperial Pumpkin Porter. And we're going to be taking a look at batch 1, which is about a year and a month old at this point. We're coming up on Halloween in just a couple of days, and I figured this would be a perfect time to crack into this bottle. I've had 2 of these sitting in my fridge for a year now since the last release, thanks to my buddy Andrew, who lives out there in Colorado and sends me some of these wonderful Avery treats from time to time. But I never ended up opening this last fall and winter, and then I figured I should just save it for this year because these beers are huge ABV beers. If you guys aren't familiar with Avery's Big Beer series, they're all like between 15 and 20% pretty much. They're just ridiculous beers, and they're wonderful beers. I absolutely love them. I look at them as special occasion beers. I do not open these unless it's like a holiday or like a special occasion usually, because they're really hard to get and they're expensive and they're super high ABV. So when you crack one of these open, if you're not sharing it with somebody, you are in for the long haul. Believe me, you will have a good night, which is what I'm going to be having very shortly. I'm committing to this bottle. I will feel no pain by the end of it for sure. It's 17.22%. They're very specific. Right there, 17.22% ABV for an Imperial Pumpkin Ale aged in bourbon barrels. And this was bottled on September 12th, 2014. And it is the 28th of October. Like I said, just a couple days away from Halloween. They say to serve it at 45 to 55 degrees, so at least they put that on there, you know, warmer than fridge temp. This is probably 50 degrees now, if not a bit warmer. I definitely prefer these beers a little bit warmer, especially for a darker beer like this. It says brewed with Rocky Mountain water, malted barley, flaked oats, pumpkin, nutmeg, cinnamon, allspice, cloves, hops, and yeast. And this is batch 1, and they're doing a batch 2 of this. This is a part of their annual barrel series. I know Tweak is in there, also Rumpkin. Speaking of Rumpkin, if you guys didn't see last Halloween, I posted my huge, complete Rumpkin vertical that I filmed with Jared, and that was posted last Halloween. That was a really fun time and got really drunk. And I think we had like Utopias too after that, something ridiculous. But that's probably why I never got to open this, actually, because we opened like every Rumpkin bottle, which I love that beer. I've had this on tap in California a couple times in a sampler, and I had it actually next to Rumpkin, and I loved it. You know, the difference between this one is it's obviously a porter, and it's in bourbon barrels as opposed to the Rumpkin, which is a pumpkin ale aged in rum barrels. Also similar ABV though, but this is like the dark version basically of that beer. So any other information on this that we need to talk about? I do not think so. Yeah, so the second batch is coming out in like the first week of November. So they're doing it 2 months later this year, and it's also like 15% I think this year as opposed to 17%, which is interesting. The funniest thing I read in this press release about this beer was from the owner, and how he called it a session beer to be funny, because he said that just because it's a huge beer doesn't necessarily mean you need to find a bunch of friends to split a bottle. He said, I just try to limit myself to 1 per drinking session, so I'd call it a sessionable beer. Your session just ends a lot quicker. That's really funny, because it's totally true. You can make this beer last all night, guys. I usually like to sip on my beers, let them warm up fully. If you want, pour half of it in warm, put it back in the fridge. Then when you finish that half, you can have a cold glass of it next, which is what I might do with this. That way you get to see the differences of it and how it evolves. Other than that, guys, that's pretty much it. This was aged in fresh bourbon barrels for 6 months. And then he said he thought the vanilla and char flavors from the barrels would meld really well with the pumpkin and spices, of course. They use a ridiculous amount of spices in this beer. He talked about if you added the spice level that's in this to a 5% ABV beer, it would be undrinkable because of all the high alcohol, residual sugar, specialty malts, and flavors from the bourbon barrels allow them to put a ton of spices in this to sort of stand up to it. But yeah, it definitely, let's get into this one, guys. I am really excited. This one does get distributed. I think all their annual series get distributed, so if you can get it in your state, you can be on the lookout for it this November. And their other barrels series, annual barrel series, you can go to Avery's website and see if you get it in your state. But enough of my yapping, guys. This has been out of the fridge for about a half hour now. It's got a perfect, nice chill to it, and we're gonna go ahead and crack this open, and we're gonna do it right on camera because why not? Let's crack it open, guys. Actually, let's do it this way. Yeah, big thanks to Andrew again. I know he sent me these last year. These are expensive bottles and pretty hard to get, so I don't want to die right this second, so I'm going to pour like half a glass just so we can get a little look at the head too. I'm sure there's some pretty good yeast settlement at the bottom of this bottle that I'll deal with later when I try to finish this beer. But yeah, guys, let's get a look at this. I'm sorry, guys, if you can hear the torrential rain and wind outside right now. It is crazy, windy, cold, rainy, late October evening out here in New England. So, perfect beer at hand for this. Let's get a look at the appearance, guys. As I just poured it, I could already smell it. It smells like bourbon barrels. But yeah, obviously not much head to speak of, right? Just a little bit of a rim around it. I mean, let's not even talk about the head. It's non-existent pretty much. Color on this. What's interesting is this is actually not pitch black. As an Imperial Porter, at this high ABV, I expect it to be pitch black. It is pretty freaking borderline though, guys. I bet away from the light. Yeah, away from the light it looks black. Well, up to the light you can see just the faintest like blood red, ruby red tones to it, the faintest, but it's there. You can see through it a little bit, not much. Looks black away from the light. Let's go ahead and get an aroma on this, guys. It's perfect temperature right now. This is like perfect for these type of beers. You need to have them like cellar temp, maybe a little bit more chilled than that to start, and it will warm up to room temp and just be amazing. All right, guys, let's go ahead and dive in. I'm gonna get drunk in this review really quickly, probably, with this high ABV beer. I'm getting old, guys. Can't be drinking these big beers like this all the time. All right, let's get an aroma. Oh my God. I just wanna live in that glass. I just wanna live in there. Oh man, it's been a while since I've had a beer this big. With just like makes you go speechless, like your mind just goes numb. Wow. I should have mentioned also, this has been in my fridge for a year. When I get beers like this that are spiced or have adjuncts in them, keep them in the fridge. If you're gonna age them, you gotta stay in the fridge. So this smells really intense still for a year in the fridge. All right, so I'm getting just blasted, like assaulted with bourbon in the nose. I know they age it for 6 months, but man, this is bourbon forward. Bourbon, and then one of the beautiful things about the Avery pumpkin beers, and I honestly think that Rumkin is probably my favorite pumpkin beer ever made. Maybe there's a couple others, but it's up there with the best pumpkin beers. One of the things I love about Avery's versions, you can actually smell the pumpkin flesh, the roasted pumpkin flesh. That's very important in a good pumpkin beer for me. I don't care about the artificial crap anymore. I don't want a pumpkin beer with artificial pumpkin smell, artificial pumpkin taste. I'm a big fan of making homemade pumpkin pie, pumpkin pasta dishes, anything homemade pumpkin, roasting pumpkin. It's just a really great vegetable, basically. It's like a squash. And I really enjoy this time of year for that. And you can smell the roasted pumpkin flesh in this beer. It does not smell artificial. It does not smell fake. It smells amazing. And everything is really, you can tell, like toned down after a year. but that's okay because the alcohol definitely needs it too. Man, the pumpkin pie spices are incredible. Tons of cinnamon and nutmeg, and then that clove in the background. Cinnamon, nutmeg, and clove. That roasted pumpkin flesh is in there. Bourbon, just bourbon for days. A slight burn of like smelling a bourbon in the back of the nostrils, and then this wonderful like chocolate just coats your nose, like this chocolate flavor. So it's like rich chocolate, bordering on a dark chocolate, like roasted pumpkin flesh. You can really tell it's real. And then that malted milk ball. Malted milk ball thing is what I get in a lot of Avery's bigger, darker beers. And it's slighter in this one, actually. It's more just straight bourbon and chocolate with pumpkin pie spices, a hint of vanilla bean. I mean, guys, this smells incredible. These guys are masters at barrel aging and doing these type of beers. They really are. 17%, over 17%, and I can barely smell the alcohol. Like man, wow, that's good. Let's get a sip, guys. This smells fucking amazing. Wow, thank you to Andrew. Cheers, guys. Let's get a sip. Wow. Wow. Oh my God, that's good. Guys, that is so fucking good. I don't care if you like pumpkin or not. This beer is incredible. Oh my God. The flavors just keep going. It just keeps going. Wow. Roasted malt, dark chocolate, that malted milk ball thing in the finish, bourbon, a little sweetness, pumpkin pie spices. There's a burn in the back of the throat, but that is the only time, place where you feel the alcohol, even think about the alcohol. At over 17%, that's absurd. The flavor on this is even better than the aroma. I don't know how they did that, because the aroma is incredible. Yeah, wow. And I took the tiniest sip too. You have to with this beer. But I'm gonna take one more sip and wow, I'm like blown away. This is so fucking delicious. It's almost, wow. It's almost to the point of drinking a pumpkin spiced bourbon, but there's like way more intensity with the pumpkin flavors, of course. The pumpkin pie spices, guys. Let's talk about this for a second. The amount of balance in this beer, okay? The sweetness up front, throughout, is like this brown sugar sweetness. The spices, the cinnamon is big. Love that. Cinnamon, allspice, clove, they are perfect. They mesh so well together. They're not overpowering. They've obviously probably toned down a little bit over a year. The bourbon is such a wonderful flavor, and it does impart that charred oak, which works with those chocolatey flavors, the roasted malts. They all work together. And then the vanilla. The vanilla component is almost giving it like that pumpkin pie type flavor to it in the middle of the mouth to the finish. And then the beer is just, it just coats your freaking mouth. Like, you could sit back after having a sip for like 5 minutes and still be tasting this beer. It's one of those beers where it stays with you. It's a sipper. You're, like I said before, you're in it for the long haul with this type of beer. It is just so, like, it commands respect. This is such a well-crafted beverage right here. It's like somewhere in between drinking a spirit, a hard liquor, and a beer. It's somewhere in between there. I mean, this is pretty up there, guys. This is over 17%. Man, let's get one more sip. Unbelievable. unbelievable. It is so good. You know, you do have to like sweet beers, guys. You have to like big sweet beers. You have to understand what this is going to taste like. If you've ever had a big beer from the brewery, something like that, this is that kind of beer. However, because of the spices in this, and because of the balance, this does not come across too sweet. It is a sweet beer. It almost by nature has to be because of the ABV, but it is not a cloying beer by any means. The spices really cut that down quite a bit for me, and that really makes it more enjoyable to drink. But I do like a big sweet beer every now and again, but you really have to take your time with it because it can get a bit much. But between the bourbon, which is, by the way, a very strong presence in this still after a year in my fridge, the bourbon presence mixed with the spices, the chocolatey flavors, that brown sugar, there's a malted milk ball type of thing in there as well. It makes the sweetness work. These guys know what they're doing. They're not making a mess of a beer. This is not a mess. This is probably as balanced as you can make it for the ABV, and for what they were going for, I don't think it could be better, to be honest with you. It's really crazy to have, you know, something like this where this doesn't really exist in real life. Like pumpkin pie, you can have like a pumpkin ale and get that, but a chocolate version of a pumpkin pie doesn't really exist in real life unless you had like a pumpkin, like a chocolate pumpkin cheesecake. But typically when you think pumpkin pie, it's just like a graham cracker crust, pumpkin pie, pumpkin filling with spices. But this is like having that crazy other dark side of it with those chocolatey flavors and the roastiness, and it's just so much fun to drink. It's such a wonderful thing. And that bourbon, man, oh, it's so nice. I wish I knew what bourbon barrels they aged this in, because it's just so smooth and absolutely delicious. All right, guys, so I'm gonna go sip on the pumpkin for a few more minutes and let it warm up just a couple more degrees. Pretty much already like room temp at this point, so amazing beer, guys. It's what I hoped for. It's what I expected. Actually, I think it might even exceed what I expected it to be at this point. So I'll be right back with my final thoughts and score on the pumpkin. All right, guys, so I'm back with the pumpkin, and I've been sipping on it just for a few minutes. I didn't want to let it warm up too much. It's already a perfect temperature, like cellar temp. Guys, this beer is fucking amazing. You know, is it better than Rumkin? I don't know. You'd have to try them side by side, see what you like better. If you like more of the darker, richer flavors, definitely this one. Rumkin is just like a really excessive to the limit pumpkin pie beer. And it's aged in rum barrels. So if you like rum, you'll definitely like that one. This is another animal. You know, you could say it's just the darker version of Rumkin, but it's really a different beer. And it's aged in bourbon barrels, of course, so it really is different. And one of the things I forgot to mention, and I was really trying to put my finger on it, with the spices, is the nutmeg, which I did not remember until I went back and looked it up. But that's what I was thinking was that cinnamon too. So the cinnamon and nutmeg and the allspice are huge in this beer. I really appreciate that they didn't go crazy on the clove. Clove can get really intense, really strong, and they were restrained with that. So again, the spices, the nutmeg, the cinnamon, allspice, really balanced. For whatever clove is in there, is pretty well restrained, which I really appreciate. And yeah, guys, this is an absolutely killer beer. Again, for over 17%, it is so drinkable. And one of the things I didn't mention earlier was the mouthfeel. It's a pretty light mouthfeel, guys. Like it's thin. Like this is not too thick. You can drink this way faster than you would if this was a thicker beer, which can be a little bit dangerous. Yeah, it's got a pretty thin mouthfeel. Carbonation is very, very light. I mean, spritzy, small bubbles, very effervescent, just to help the beer move. But one of the best things about this beer is that charred oak from the bourbon barrels, that roasty, toasty, chocolatey, and vanilla character that kind of works with those pumpkin pie spices. The pumpkin flesh itself is also roasted pumpkin, I'm assuming, because I can taste the pumpkin in there. And that all those roasty flavors really do a great job to sort of counterbalance that sweetness that you're getting from everything else. And the spices also come into that perfect balance in the middle. So it's sweet, it's spicy, it's chocolatey, it's bourbony, it's got vanilla. It's way too easy to drink. The mouthfeel is light, the carbonation is soft and spritzy. And as you leave it out, I kind of like my beers a little softer. I don't really need all that carbonation. I wouldn't, this is more like a drink to me, like an after dinner drink or something like that. So really this could be flat and I wouldn't care. It would be really, really great. And you can take the smallest sips and get so much flavor out of this beer. So remember that when you're drinking this. Very small sips. Take your time with it. Let it warm up. You'll be rewarded. Your mouth is coated with the flavors for a couple minutes. Just very, very, very impressive beer. So guys, as far as a score on Beer Advocate, it has a 91. It's slightly higher rated than the Rumpkin actually, which is interesting. I think that was an 89. Yeah guys, this is way higher than a 91 for me, and I could be biased, so I'll say that right now. You can keep that in mind with this review. I'm a big fan of big Avery beers, and I'm a big fan of pumpkin beers, the really good ones anyways. So 91 on Beer Advocate. I'm gonna go high 90s on this one. This is probably like a, man, this is really good. This is probably like a 98 minus probably. Yeah, 98 minus. I'm gonna go that level on this beer. And one of the reasons is that you cannot find anything wrong with this beer. Aside from it being okay, it's a little sweet, right? It's a little overly sweet maybe, but other than that, it is so impressive to mask 17 fucking % in a beer and drink it and be like, wow, this tastes yummy, like this is delicious. Like, to do that is crazy. That takes a lot of talent. It's very impressive. It's very hard to do. So, and I'm starting to feel it now as I'm talking more, so I'm going to get off the camera. But yeah, it's really 17%. It'll really knock you on your ass. And if you drink it too fast, you will have a nice hangover. So yeah, it's sessionable, one per session, all night long. So yeah, guys, 98 minus, solid 98 minus. Bordering on that, just like, I don't even know what 100 would be for a beer like this, but you guys get the idea. It's fucking incredible. I would love to have compared this to this year's, to do a side-by-side with the one that's coming out, which is lower alcohol, with a fresh bottle, but maybe I'll just review that one too. Maybe I'll review the batch 2 separately and post that one, because I love this beer, and I'd be curious to see how it is straight off the bottling line. Probably less balanced, I would say. It's probably going to be a little more intense than it needs to be. I think a year with a beer like this can do a lot of good, especially if you keep it in the fridge. It ages a lot slower. So anyways, guys, let me know what you think of the pumpkin. If you've had it from Avery, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. This is batch 1, so it's the only one that's out. So if you guys have had it, let me know what you think. If you agree, disagree, always love to hear your feedback, and let me know if you like the Rumpkin better. If you've had them side by side, that could be another cool video I could do sometime, do a Rumpkin and pumpkin side by side. But I appreciate Avery doing this, because nobody else really is doing this level of pumpkin beers and just nailing it. So it's really, really cool. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. 98 minus for the Avery pumpkin. And thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Happy Halloween. I'm not sure which day I'm posting this, but it's basically Halloween, so that's why I wanted to post this for you guys. So happy Halloween. Be safe, be smart, drink great beer, drink shitty beer if you have to, but have a good time and be safe. So see you next time, guys. Cheers.